There are some tribes in Kenya that changed their names at independence. Coincidentally, most, if not all, are from the western side of Kenya. We will start with the Bukusu and the Gishu. These two Luhya sub-tribes were referred to during colonial times. If you look at the colonial correspondence, Bukusus were being referred to as Kitosh, and Gisus were being referred to as Masaba. How they got the names Kitosh and Masaba, I do not know. But just like other tribes changed their names at independence, they also changed their names to Bukusu and Gishu respectively. Whether it was deliberate or not, but it happened around the time when Kenya attained independence. Why the name Masaba or Kitosh, I do not know. But what I know is that these tribes changed their names at the independence. Uh, apart from Gishus, what I know is all the tribes that changed their names at independence, apart from Gishus, are never happy when you call them by their colonial names. But if you get a Mugishu and you call him Masaba, he wouldn't mind. In fact, he accepts the name Masaba just the way that he accepts the name Gishu. But if you look at all other tribes in Kenya that changed their names at the independence, if you use the name that Europeans used to call them, they get annoyed. Well, now, Gishus and Bukusus are closely related. According to Luhya culture, it is said that they were stepbrothers. They were both sons of a man called Maina. They were both sons of a man called Maina. Yes, the name Maina is used to in many, many tribes. We have Maina in Luhya. We have Kikuyus and Kalenjins. Actually, Maina is very over 90%. Most of the people would associate the name Maina with Kikuyu tribe or Kikuyu language, and then followed by Nandi language. Very few people would know that Maina, before it became a Kikuyu name, and even before it became a Nandi name, it used to be a Luhya name. Maina was a polygamist man. He was a polygamist man. When he had a serious issue to settle, when he needed advice or when he wanted to consult, he used to consult his two sons. One, Bukusu, yes, his name was Bukusu, and the other one was called Gishu. Yes, he was called Gishu. Now, the Bukusu sub-tribe are descendants of the son called Bukusu, and the Gishu sub-tribe are descendants of the son Gishu. They were both firstborns of their mothers. Remember, Bukusu and Gishu were step-brothers. One of them, his mother was the first wife, and the other one, his mother was the second wife. Now, if you want to ask me whose mother was the firstborn, was the first wife, and whose mother was the second wife, I don't know. But what I know is one of them was the son, was the firstborn of the first wife, and the other one was the firstborn of the second wife. By firstborn, I mean the first son. Until recently, even if you had 20 daughters and your 21st child is a boy, that one used to be considered your firstborn. So one was the eldest son of the first wife, and the other one was the eldest son of the second wife. So whenever he had a serious thing to consider, he would call the two sons to talk to them before he made a decision. One time, there was a serious case. There was a unique case of which he called the two sons to consult. One of Mainas, that is their father, one of Mainas' sons, very junior son, had committed incest with his younger stepmother. Those days, in fact, until recently, it was easy for someone, it was easy for a man to do an atwoli, that is to marry a lady younger than his own children. So one of the ladies that he had married, subsequently married, one of the ladies he had married was in the same age group with one of his very junior sons. And they committed incest. A boy with his stepmother, who was his age mate. During a heated discussion, two suggestions came. Two suggestions came that they kill the boy and the stepmother. The other suggestion was expel the boy. Now, I do not know which thinking Gishu had, and I don't know which thinking Bukusu had. But of the two, one wanted the boy and those affected to be killed because they had committed an abomination. And the other one wanted them to be expelled. That is when the argument became so heated that the family of Maina divided into two. The family of Maina divided into two, and they decided to surround Mount Masaba. One was to half of the family was to stay on the eastern side of Mount Masaba, and the other one was to stay on the western side of Mount Masaba. Now, those who stayed east of the Mount Masaba are now today what we call the Bukusu sub-tribe of the Luya. And those who went to the west side of Mount Masaba were called, they are now the Wagisu. The name Masaba is derived from that son of Maina. Masaba, son of Maina. For you, you may be wondering where this mountain went to. That mountain today is called Mount Elgon. Mount Elgon, original name was Mount Masaba, the mountain for the Gishus. The next tribe that changed its name, if we could so say, if we could say that it changed, although it didn't change the name, but we can say that it changed, is the Sabot. Actually, they are very few, but have large landmarks named after them. Several of their sub-tribes form the word Sabaot. Sabaot is initials that form their several sub-tribes. Sa stands for Sebei. No, there is not Sebei, Seretanyi. There is a tribe in Uganda called Seretanyi. although Sebei is also within that. So SA stands for Siritanyi, and they are in Uganda with Sebeis. Ba stands for Bongomek. Bongomek is a sub-tribe of the Sabot, and I'm sure you are wondering where the name Bongomet comes from. But today's town, there's a town and even county, but we are talking of the town. There is a town called Bungoma town. The truth of the matter is Bungoma town is named after the Bongomek. The Bukusus or the Luhyas call Bungoma town Ebungoma. Ebungoma. Not Bungoma, but there is Bungoma. Just like people call the speaker Wetangula when he's Wetangula. So Bungoma is the word derived from Bongomek, but it is pronounced as Bungoma. Just like you learned in school, Ngangengingongu. So the Bongomek used to stay around that place. So the place is called Bongomek, but Bukusus used to call it Bungoma. And with the Luhya, every town is added the name E. Ebungoma, Ekitali, Nairobi. Nairobi inakatwa inakuwa Nairobi. So it starts with E. So that is where the name Bungoma came from, Ebungoma. The word T in Sabot, stands for the name Tachonyi. I am a Tachonyi. Tachonyi is a sub-tribe that is very unique. We are very unique. We can claim to be a Luhya sub-tribe. At the same time, we can claim to be a Kalenjin sub-tribe. So the name Sabot, that's word T stands for Tachonyi. And how did Tachonyis get the name Tachonyi? Once upon a time, a family or a clan from the Sabot settled along the banks of River Nzoia, both sides of River Nzoia, separating the Bukusu and the Kabras. So staying between Bukusu and Kabras, they came up with their own Luhya dialect, Olutachoni, which is a mixture. Is it Sheng? Yeah, which is a Sheng of Kabrasi and Bukusu. They settled they settled at a place called Lukova Lua Akari. Lukova Lua Akari. I know many of you would be wondering where Lukova Lua Akari is, but I'll tell you, once you know where Lugari is, then that is Lukova Lua Akari. Muzungu could not pronounce the long name Lukova Lua Akari, so he just called Lugari. When staying across River Nzoia, their brethren up there in the mountain, Mount Masaba, you call it Mount Elgon, used to inquire when they would go back to their home. And they would answer in Kisabaot, Mitachoni, Mitachoni. Kama Kizungu, me touch on it, Mitachoni. Now when they said Mitachoni, it said, if you translate it into Kiswahili, it says nitakuja. So every time they would be asked, they say Mitachoni, Mitachoni, Mitachoni. Then the Sabot got annoyed with them and told them, Tachonyi. Every time you're saying Tachonyi, Tachonyi. So that is how the Tachonis were assimilated by Luhya. Just like Terik, there are some Teriks who went to Kaimosi and they were assimilated into the Luhya and they are called Abatiriki. That is how the Tachonys came to be. And as I was saying, uh, the Bukusus and the Gishus were descendants of Mubukusu and Mugisu. Then after we finish that, we have to go south. We have to go south to the border of Kenya and Tanzania. There you find a tribe called Kuria. There you find a tribe called Kuria. Before independence, Kurias were called Watende, if there are many. But if it is one, it was called Amutende. When Kenya attained independence, Kurias refused to be called Watende or Mutende and started being called Kurias. Let me ask you a question. Have you ever heard the people say bahati ya Mutende or bahati kama ya Mutende? This Mutende is Mukuria. So it's like somebody telling you bahati kama ya Mukuria. Why did they say bahati kama ya Mukuria? Those days, an African could only rise to the rank of clerk. An African could only rise to the rank of clerk. Actually, there were about 6 clerk. There was about 6 district clerks in Kenya. There were about 6 district clerks in Kenya. Let me tell you the job description of a district clerk. You know, it was assumed that the district commissioner was not a local. So just like in the military, you have an RSM to assist the commanding officer in running a battalion. The district commissioner used to rely on a native clerk to assist him understand the traditions of the area. So the district clerk of Nyanza, Elgon Nyanza started from somewhere, Kitale, Mount Elgon, all the way to Kuria land, including Kericho. So the district clerk at that time, when my father was born, was called Orlando. And the Luyas could not pronounce the name Orlando, so they just called him Lando. So those days, as I said, Africans could only rise to the rank of clerk. If even chiefs were illiterate, the chiefs were illiterate and they had clerks. I have age mates who were even clerks to the chief. So the highest rank an African could get was a clerk. And the lowest work that African could do was to be a pit latrine digger. To be a pit latrine digger. So this fellow who was a Mukuria by tribe, it is said that one day he went to look for a job. He was looking for a job to go and dig a pit latrine, the lowest job. Upon arrival at his place of work, the employer looked at him and employed him as a clerk. He employed him as a clerk, and that is when people are told, una bahati kama ya Mutende. Because when Mutende was looking for a job, he was looking for the lowest job. That is a pit latrine digger. But the job he was given the biggest, the highest job an African could be given, a clerk. So that is why they say bahati kama ya Mukuria ama bahati kama ya Mutende, because Mutende was going to look for the lowest job and he got the highest job. They also changed their names from Watende or Mutende to Kuria. I don't know why. I also don't know if they get. I said most of the tribes, if you call them by their colonial name, they get annoyed. So I don't know whether Kurias get annoyed when you call them Watende, but then their colonial name was Watende. Then we have to move again. Before independence. The people we know today as Kipsigis were known as Lumbwa. They were known as Lumbwa. These ones I know. If you get a Kipsigis, leave alone your age mates. If you get a Kipsigis older than me in his 70s and call him Lumbwa, he gets annoyed. Why? I don't know. I have never worked in their area, but I believe they don't like the name Lumbwa. Whenever I get a Kipsigis, I usually joke with them that after they keep 6, where do they discard the excess? Because they are called Kipsigis. They keep 6. From there, we move northwards to Pokot. Before independence, they were mostly known as Suk. Before I talk about Pokot, do you know that the original owners of the original occupants of Kitale town? Kitale town used to belong to Pokot until 1920 when they were expelled. They were expelled from Kitale town. In Pokot language, the year, when Kenya started giving out to people IDs, they came up with a formula where they would want to know which year you were born. So you say, my parents told me that I was born such and such a year, then they calculate your age. Those people who were born in 1920 were called the age group that is called Konyikwenda. 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 Kwenda in Kiswahili is being expelled. Go away. What happened was before 1920, the settlers had started planting. The settlers had started planting cabbages and other things in Kitale area, and the Pokots were shocked to see that this round grass, cabbage, this round grass, cows used to like that, so they would take their cows to the shamba where there is cabbage, and the cows would start eating the cabbage, and the Wazungus would come, get annoyed, and the Pokot would wonder, why is it that he's getting annoyed and the cows are only eating grass, the funny looking round grass? But the Wazungus were annoyed because it was cabbage that was being eaten. So they were chased away from Kitale, and that is when they called the place, they called the year Konyikwenda. Konyikwenda, the year we were told Kwenda. And Kitale derives its name from Ekitali. There is a place behind Pan Paper called Kitale. This village, most of the initial residents of Kitale came from that village called. And then there is Senta Kwanza. Senta Kwanza is the first, what do you call, settlement place that the Bukusu settled. Senta Kwanza, the first center. There is Kolongolo. Kolongolo, there is an age group among the Bukusu called Kolongolo. Those who settled in Kolongolo were sons of Kolongolo age group. So what I'm saying is that Pokots uh, were chased from Pokots were chased from Kitale because their cows used to eat to eat the cabbages, and they would wonder why the Mzungu is annoyed that cows are eating grass. Before independence, Pokots were mostly known as Suk. They were mostly known as Suk. Today, a single one Pokot is called a Pochon, and plural, 2 or more are called Pogot. Pogot. Now, Pochon is Pochon, Pochon. That is one. If there are many, they are called Pogot. Pogot. Uh, that is the name they adopted after independence. But before independence, they used to be referred, if you look at the colonial documents, they are referred to as Suk. The name Suk is derived from an area north of Chepareria called Sok. If you ask me, from Kapenguria, that place is the direction is north northwest. NNW, North Northwest, there's a place called Sok. That is where the name Suk got it derived its name. So Sok, not Suk, Sok is a type of a holy tree. It is a type of a holy tree according to the Pocock. Sok is a holy tree according to the Pocock. When they are going for cattle rustling, when they are going for cattle rustling, and even when they are coming from cattle rustling, they make sure that the holy tree is on their right side. They make sure that the holy tree is on their right side. Meaning that whether they are going to the north to cattle rustle among the Turkanas, or they are going to the west, cattle rustling among the Karamojong, or going to the east, cattle rustling against the Marakwet, or going south, cattle rustling against the Bukusu. When they were going to do the cattle rustling, they made sure that the tree was on their right. So when they go, the tree is on their right. When they come back after cattle rustling, the tree is on their right. What does that mean? It means that they have gone around the tree. Because when they were going, for example, they are going to cut rustle the Turkana in the north. It would mean that they would move west of the tree, and when they come back, they'll move to the east of the tree. So it means that they have gone around the tree. That tree, it is holy to them. It was because of their fascination with the tree that the tribe was named after that tree. The Sok tree, it was named Suk. The tribe was now called Suk. Among the Luhya, and especially among the Bukusu, the who were enemies of the Pocots, they developed a name which says Suku, Omusuku, or somebody who is Suku. Omu means, like Luya say, Omuluya, Omukikuyu, Omunandi. So Omusuku means you belong to the Suk tribe. In Bukusu and Luya tribe, the word Omusuku also means enemy. Not just enemy, a sworn enemy. On their part, Pocots used to call Bukusus, especially Luyas, especially Bukusus, they used to call them Kaurire. They used to call them Kaurire. Because every time a Bukusu say, what's a Naurire, Mureboyo Kaurire, whatever, Hembudra, Kaurire, Kaurire, they used to hear every sentence, or even a Bukusu would ask you, Waurire. No, no, Mureboyo Kaurire. Nasena Urire, Waurire, Kaurire. So there was that Kaurire, Kaurire. Which in Kibukusu means amesikia, he has heard or she has heard. So they said this tribe that was always saying Kaurire. So among the Bukusu, among the Pokot, Aluhya, especially a Bukusu, is called Kaurire. Moist tribe. Now we move to Moist tribe. The Tugen used to be called Kamasia. Kamasia, and changed their name at independence to Tugen. I don't know where the name Tugen or Kamasia was driven from, but they get irritated even today. But I'm talking of people older than me. You see, if you get somebody who is a 30 or whatever years, but people who are over 70 years, you call him Kamasia, they get annoyed. Why? I don't know. Maybe when I get, will share. Or can you comment that in the comment section? I have concentrated on names changed and not nicknames. I have concentrated on names changed and not nicknames. because every tribe in Kenya has a nickname for their neighbors. Luyas call Luos Abanyolo. 90% of Luyas call Luos Abanyolo. I don't know where the name Abanyolo means, but especially elderly people, they prefer calling Luos Ababo. Ababo. I want to tell you that Ababo, even as I said, I don't know the meaning of Abanyolo. But if you look at the person who calls a Luo Omunyolo or Abanyolo, usually has a bad intention. But the name Ababo is more respectable. And elderly Luya prefer using the name Ababo. What does Ababo mean? Ababo means people who come from Mumbo. People who come from Mumbo. What is Mumbo in Luya? Mumbo in Luya is the lower plainland. Lower plainland. You know, Luya land is on a higher scale. All the rivers in Luya land, they drain into Lake Victoria. So it literally means people who live on the lower side. Luos call Luyas, but the name that is respectable among the Luo, is it Jamwalo? Jamalo, yeah. The Luo call themselves Jamwalo, they call Luya Jamalo. Jamwalo is a Luo word for saying lower side, which is also translated into Luya Mumbo. So they call themselves people of the lower place, and they call Luya Jamalo. Jamalo, people from the higher, you see, Luya land is up there. The rivers from Luya land drain into Lake Victoria. That is how they get the name Jamalo and Jamwalo. Luos call Kipsigis, they call Kipsigis Jalango. Jalango. Now, if you ask me what Jalango means, I don't know. But Kipsigis call Luos Mibei. Mibei. I think you have even heard them calling Raila Arab Mibei. Arab is a son of, So Arab Mibei. Mibei means a lake. So they call Luos sons of the lake. Viewers, that is all for today. Keep on watching. I get entertained talking to you.